Prepared Shou, which botanically is called Polygonum multiflorum, is pretty much the quintessential yin-jing tonic of traditional Chinese medicine. And that basically means that it's the premier herbal substance for replenishing our most vital essence, or our foundational life force, which is what the Chinese referred to as our Jing essence. So it's really important here to distinguish between prepared Ho Shou Wu and unprepared Ho Shou Wu. We'll get into the preparation process in a little bit, but basically the prepared Ho Shou Wu is this tonic substance that we're talking about, and it should be a very dark color. Unprepared Ho Shou Wu is a very light, kind of sandy light brown color. It doesn't have any of these tonic properties that we're going to discuss. It's actually more of a laxative than anything else. And a name that it often goes by, that this herb often goes by, is faux tea. And in my experience, that's more commonly what the unprepared variety is known as. And when this herb is prepared, it's a very powerful yin herb, which basically means that its primary role is to nourish and rebuild, replenish, revitalize, rejuvenate, and really just provide long-term vitality. So because of that, it is pretty much the most famous anti-aging substance in all of traditional Chinese medicine. And it's been used for a very, very long time for reversing all of the symptoms that are associated with aging, like grey hair, baldness, amongst many other things. But this is actually how it got its name, because the name Ho Shou Wu basically translates as Old Mr. Ho's head of black hair. So the legend says that this herb was first discovered by an old man named Mr. Ho, who was really, really old, and he was in terrible physical shape. He had like a crooked spine, and he was struggling to walk. He was very arthritic, and he had a real overwhelming sense of weakness and just general exhaustion. And, he was basically just fading away. His face was a picture of deeply carved wrinkles, and he only had a tiny amount of hair left on his head, which was obviously completely grey or white. And because his life force was deteriorating so rapidly, he began to reflect on his life, and he started to regret the fact that he'd never become a father, and there would really be nobody to carry on his genetic lineage. So through desperation, he searched high and low for a natural medicine that would actually revitalize his constitution and restore his youthful energy. So he wanted to see if it was possible to turn back his biological clock and restore his strength enough so that he may enjoy many more active years of life and even reproduce, so that he could ensure the continuation of his bloodline. Well, one day old Mr. Ho reached the threshold of his frailty, and he collapsed on the side of the road. But in this subconscious state that he was in, he heard a very soothing voice calling to him, and he woke up by the side of the road to find that he was right next to a very sacred plant that had what he perceived to be a vibrating aura. And it was speaking to him, and it was asking him to pick it. So very carefully, he loosened the roots from the soil, and he carried the entire plant to a herbal shaman that he knew of in one of the neighboring villages. And this medicine man is believed to have been guided by the spirit of the plant, and he followed instructions from the plant on how it should be prepared, how the roots should be prepared, which was to cook them for many hours in a black bean stew, the process of which would completely transform the nature of this medicine into one of the greatest herbal tonics for reanimating the vital essence and the life force. So old Mr. Ho consumed this medicine every day, And after some time had passed, his hair actually began to grow back and return to its original black color. And the legend says that his youthful Jing essence returned to such a degree that he became constitutionally a lot stronger and actually quite handsome again. And he fathered many healthy children despite his old age. So this story is very well known throughout Asia, and it's really the main reason why this herb has become so popular and for such a long time as well. Now, Ho Shou Wu was also one of the select few favorite herbs of Li Qingyuan, which was a Chinese herbalist that's actually believed to have lived for possibly up to 256 years. He actually died sometime in the 1930s. But, legend aside, Ho Shou Wu is perfectly capable of proving itself under much more contemporary scrutiny as well, because it's excellent for building bone density and for strengthening ligaments, tendons, connective tissues, and just generally making the body physically more robust and resilient. And it's very common for both men and women to experience much greater fertility and a much more enhanced libido when they're consuming this herb over the course of time. So this is commonly how it's used, for people that, both men and women that are trying to conceive. Because it's well known for male sperm count to double or even triple while consuming Ho Shou Wu. And the female ova is similarly enhanced. So, this is actually a primary recommendation for women who have just given birth, because of the rejuvenating and restorative properties of this herb, and really its ability to restore vitality to new mothers who are really depleted and exhausted from the trials of pregnancy and going through labor, and, everything that comes with postpartum life. So as you might expect, it's a very potent tonic for the kidneys, which are believed to be the organs that house this Jing essence. And directly related to that, it's very good at strengthening the spine, especially the lower back, and also the lower joints. It can very much strengthen the articulation process of the hips, the knees, the ankles, and it's also a very good tonic for the liver and the gallbladder because it's increasing the healthy flow of bile. And this is very relevant to people with a very fast or hot-natured constitution, because people that have a tendency towards an excess of this heat energy, they may find themselves with anger management issues. They may find themselves getting very easily frustrated with life all the time. And this herb can be very good in that respect because it's somewhat cooling, it's restorative, it's regenerative, and it's actually ensuring the healthy flow, the healthy movement of this heat energy so that it doesn't tend to accumulate and cause a lot of symptomatic problems. It also strengthens the structural integrity of red blood cells and promotes their development and their formation within the bone marrow. So it's actually ensuring that there's a healthy abundance of red blood cells within the bloodstream, and that oxygen is actually dispersing and reaching everywhere it needs to within the body. Modern research actually indicates that Ho Shou Wu is able to significantly increase the activity of superoxide dismutase, or SOD, which is an intracellular enzyme that acts as a very powerful antioxidant. And it's also a very good natural monoamine oxidase inhibitor, or an MAO inhibitor, which means that it can block the metabolism of certain important neurotransmitters like serotonin or dopamine. And by doing this, it can seriously elevate mood and feelings of well-being over the course of time. It's also a rich source of anthraquinones, which are constituents that have shown to reduce the inflammation of arthritis and also inflammation that we may have within the intestinal tract. And they've also shown to inhibit the growth of many different types of tumor cells as well. Something else to consider with anthraquinones is that they do tend to increase digestion, so overconsumption can have a bit of a laxative effect. It can make things pass through the whole digestive tract a little bit too quickly. So traditionally, Ho Shou Wu was often formulated with more astringent herbs that would retain a little bit of fluid and actually allow the whole digestive process to occur nicely and smoothly with little to no side effects at all. Now, there's been other modern research done with Ho Shou Wu that's clearly shown that it has a kind of neuroprotective property to it that can assist in reversing and preventing Alzheimer's and really just improve mental acuity and help to improve both short and long-term memory. So although it would be very unrealistic to call this herb a panacea, I think it's pretty clear to see how it could be of particular benefit to us modern people that are so susceptible to the constant barrage of stress-inducing media, work deadlines, and, you know, just multitasking, fast-paced lifestyles that have become so commonplace now in so many cultures all around the world.